Welcome to the Be Fit podcast. I am Jo Conroy, mum, coach and founder of Be Fit. This podcast is about helping women to eat, move and live in a way that builds strength, energy and confidence at every stage of life. Join me each month for real conversations, tips and inspiration to help you feel strong, confident and completely yourself again. Welcome to my podcast. Today we are going to be talking about menopause and symptoms. I'm Jo, I'm from Be Fit and I am a fitness and health coach and I'm also trained in menopause and movement. And today I've got Jo Ibbots, I think I've said your name right, and she is an executive coach and a menopause expert and also runs something called What the Fog, which brings, I believe, women together to share in their experiences with the menopause. So hi Jo and welcome.
Hi
if you
Jo.
want to do a little introduction to yourself, I'll kind of briefly introduce you and then we'll have a little chat.
Great. Yeah, thank you. Thanks for having me on your podcast today. I'm Jo Ibbots, yes, executive coach and menopause expert. I founded What the Fog Facebook group back in 2020 and it's got about nearly 5,500 women in the group. It's a safe space. It's a place for women to come and ask questions, get some support, and for me to disseminate good information because over the years there's been a lot of duff information or there's just a lot of information, and sometimes women just want one place to kind of go and ask their question and not have to battle through everything that's out there. Yeah, so that's me. I've been sort of in this space now for 6 years, so working with women on a one-to-one. I also do workplace training as well, so go in and run training sessions for managers, training sessions for everyone in the organization, and helping organizations become menopause aware and menopause compliant as well, increasingly.
Yeah, I think that's amazing, because when you can go into businesses and these corporate places, you can reach a lot of people, can't you? And I think getting people that they need, the support in the workplace, is really, really important. As you're saying, I think there's a lot of information now. Go back however many years and it wasn't spoken about, was it?
No.
And women suffered in silence, probably given antidepressants because you're a bit depressed, have those. And now we're almost bombarded with information. And it's all over social media, and not all of that information is factual.
No.
And everyone's trying to sell a supplement. And I think, like you're saying, having a resource where people can go to get real information is really, really important. So I think the main symptom people talk about is brain fog. And I don't think people really realise, when you're not perimenopause and you don't have this brain fog, I don't think you can really understand the effect that it can have. So what do you see when people come to you? How do you see that affecting their day-to-day life in work and in the home?
Yeah, it's a great question. Brain fog is one of the main contributors, I think, to women feeling like they can't do their jobs anymore. We know 1 in 10 women leave the workforce due to symptoms, and for a lot of those, that's about the impact of brain fog on how they perceive their performance or their capability at work. And in the coaching that I do, women come to me because they have either got to the point where it's become so debilitating or undermining that they've lost their confidence. They just don't know what the heck's going on. They don't understand what's happening and they don't know what to do about it. And they feel bad in themselves, and it's really sad. So brain fog is really it's losing words. It's that just not being able to think straight. Women describe it as just having a head full of wool or mush, and where before they were able to think straight or they were able to multitask and prioritize well, they're really struggling to be able to think in those sort of more linear ways. And when it comes to work, that can be really disconcerting. It's memory issues, it's concentration issues, just not being able to concentrate in the same way, just feeling that you're a bit all over the place. It's when you're sort of going to do a presentation or you're speaking in a meeting, it's losing your words and that train of thought. It's when people say to you, "Oh, you remember when that happened," and you having no recollection of that happening. That's horrible. That's a horrible place to be. And so whenever I talk about brain fog, I always say I think it's a woefully inadequate term for what women actually experience. And then as you begin to get under the surface of it a little bit and talk to women and actually what they're dealing with, you realise that it's having a massive impact, and for some women, to the point of this, kind of even thinking, well, I'm just going to step away from my job because I don't feel I can do it anymore. And in different professions, it can be even, the impact can be even worse, because I spoke to a nurse once who said, I have to be really on it with what I'm doing, and with remembering different, sort of medical things, and the medications and all of those things. And she was saying that the brain fog was one of the biggest things for her in dealing with her patients, and not wanting to look like she didn't know what she was doing. And a lot of women feel like they're becoming less of who they were in the workplace.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a really scary statistic, isn't it? 1 in 10 women leave the workplace because of perimenopausal symptoms. And yeah, I think like brain fog, it's a nice word, isn't it? But actually, what the symptoms can be pretty serious and quite debilitating. I have had a client that's high corporate, and very confident, very high up in her business, and really, really struggling with going into big meetings, the anxiety. So it's not just the brain fog. I think along with that brain fog, your cortisol levels start to rise, and you start to get that anxiety, and it makes you feel like you're going a little bit mad.
It does, yeah.
I hear that quite frequently. I feel like I'm going mad. And I think if you are feeling like this, I think the important thing is to speak to your GP first of all. And there are other people like yourselves that are specialists, but always, go to your GP, check there's nothing else going on.
Yeah.
Have a frank conversation. Could this be perimenopause? And then seek maybe to see another specialist in that field.
Yeah, I think it's really important. I mean, to talk, I think sometimes with the sort of more psychological symptoms, the brain symptoms of menopause, I think they can look like other things. And, because they make it, because perhaps we're more stressed at this time of life because there's so much going on, we're the primary caregivers. We've perhaps got older parents and teenage kids. We're perhaps, in a really busy career. We might not have kids, but we might have a really busy career, might got to the top of, our game in terms of that. And we can think, well, it's just stress, or perhaps it's just stress, perhaps it's just this, perhaps it's just that. And actually we know now that these hormones, the estrogen, progesterone and testosterone, are so important for the smooth functioning of our brains as well as the rest of our bodies, that when the fluctuations come in perimenopause, and when and when eventually the estrogen really starts to decline, that has a massive impact. And so it's really worth going and having a conversation with your GP about your options, about not just lifestyle stuff, but also HRT, and just understanding what your options are so that you can make informed decisions. Don't just put up with it and hope it'll go away.
I think that's right. I think it's not putting up with it, and whether you decide to go down the HRT route. I'm glad that you've kind of touched on that. I know we talked about it briefly before we came on. And people are still scared of HRT. And I think there's been a recent celebrity incident that has kind of sparked that conversation off again. Is not to be scared of HRT, because actually, unless you've got other underlying health conditions, it's no more of a risk factor than, say, smoking, drinking regularly, being overweight. All of these, when you look on the scale that says that they're number scaled, it's in isolation no more risk than any of those other things.
No.
So yeah, definitely speaking sort of frankly to your doctor, and not being afraid to have that conversation about HRT, because again, there's lots of different types of HRT as well. I hear people trying it and it not working, and then not being offered an alternative.
It's interesting that there are lots of different types, but what it comes down to is the way you want to administer it. So they're all it's pretty much all now body identical HRT that is prescribed in the UK. There are some synthetic, but not very many now. It's mostly body identical. So that's really safe. It's, it's formulated from yams, which is the nearest molecular structure to our own estrogen, progesterone. And so actually it comes down to, there are different ways of having it. So gel, spray, patches. But in the first instance, that comes down to personal choice, I think. Really, how do you want to administer it, and then but as I say to women, it's an art more than a science. It takes a bit of tweaking to get it right for some women, and for some women it takes a lot of tweaking, but the important thing is not to give up on it too soon if you do want to go down the HRT route. And I would also say, when you go to your GP, ask to speak to a women's health specialist GP if there is one at your surgery. Not every surgery has one, but this is absolutely the silver bullet for a lot of us, is where you can go and talk to somebody who understands women's health and understands HRT, because sadly not all GPs are trained, and it's not their fault, but it's just the fact of the matter is this is the system we're in at the minute. So when you do go, see if you can talk to somebody who gets it, who understands, and you can work with them then to get it right for you. Over a period of months, and for some people it's a good year or two before things get settled. So
I think that's important to know and understand, isn't it? I think people can enter into the HRT journey and think that it's going to just be the magic wonder immediately, and for some women it absolutely is. They kind of get it right almost straight away, but for other women it can definitely be a journey. And like you say, speaking to somebody at your surgery that is specialist can be really helpful, can't it?
Oh yeah, it's gold really. If you've got that person. And if you haven't and you're struggling, then the British Menopause Society do have a finder, a menopause specialist finder on their website. So you can put your postcode in and it will bring up all the sort of women's health specialist, menopause specialist GPs in your area. A lot of the time it is private, so you might be paying, but at least if you're having a difficult time getting things right for you, it might well be worth exploring that option as well.
Absolutely. So we talked a little bit about kind of some of the things that affect you sort of mentally, I guess, but there are also lots of physical symptoms, and the symptom that I suffer with is joint pain. But there are, your hot flashes, the joint pain, the fatigue, and so do you see many people with those types of symptoms?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, there's so many, and people think they're getting arthritis because they've got pain in their hips, they've got pain in their hands, they've got their knees are really sort of creaky. All the physical symptoms, tinnitus. Whenever I do workplace training, I put up a list of symptoms, and I say any surprises on there, and people are always surprised by tinnitus, because that's quite common. I certainly got tinnitus at 45 years of age and I've had it ever since. So lots of different presenting symptoms, but I think again it's just important to remember we all go through this differently. It's our unique journey through this, and it can be difficult when somebody's having a set of symptoms but they're looking at those around them and going, oh, but they haven't got that, or my mum didn't have that, so maybe it isn't, or maybe I haven't. And I think it's just just really understanding the breadth of symptoms that there are, and then keeping a track of those symptoms so that you can see what is going on for you and build a bit of a picture, and then you'll feel more confident to have those conversations with your GP, or to know what it is you need to do to help yourself manage. And there are other things apart from HRT, aren't there? There's, as that fitness is really important, and exercise is really important, not just for our physical well-being, but our mental well-being as well, which, and it does help with the brain fog. If you do a bit of, sometimes I wake up in the morning, I do strength training, and, and I feel really foggy in my head. I go and do a workout, a strength workout, and it's brilliant. It seriously clears my head, and I didn't want to do it, but I'm so glad I did.
And we know that, and you'll know this, that as we come into perimenopause, as we age, full stop, but as we come into sort of perimenopause and those hormones drop, our bone mass and bone density start to decrease at a much faster pace. But we can combat that. HRT will slow that down again. But movement, exercise is key. Whether you're on HRT or whether you're not, exercise is key. But there are so many ways we can move and exercise. And I think that is important to mention, because I see in the media a lot, it's like strength training, strength training, strength training. Don't do cardio, do strength. Actually, evidence shows that we need to be doing a mixture of different types of exercise: higher intensity, lower intensity, cardio, strength, mindfulness. A blend and a mix of movement is key to helping with our symptoms, our longevity, and working with how we feel. So I always describe perimenopause as puberty in reverse.
Yes, that's true.
At the moment, I've got my daughter going this way and I'm going this way. help the boys in my house, really.
Yes, yeah.
it is like puberty in reverse, and it's not a linear thing. And one day you can feel great, and next week you can have no energy, muscle aches, brain fog. And having different exercises in your repertoire to keep that consistency is key. So, okay, do you know what, today isn't the day where I'm going to go and lift heavy weights, but actually I'm going to do a body conditioning, or I'm going to do a yoga, I'm going to go for a walk out in nature and get some fresh air. I think having that repertoire and not feeling that we need to just stick in this strength training is really important. It's a message that I like to get out to people, because we know social media gets hooked on something. And strength training, 100%, I'm not saying it isn't important. It is 2 to 3 times a week. Strength training is key to bone density, muscle mass. But those other areas are so important for our heart health. So we know that when we lose estrogen, we lose some of that extra protection that women get, that men don't get. As we come into this stage, we start to lose some of that protection. So keeping a healthy heart is key. So having, different ways to move is really important. And finding something that you love, that you love. That's not always the right word. Right? I say love because I love exercise, but that you can do consistently.
You enjoy, a bit.
Yes, you kind of love hate.
I decided last night, I thought in the morning I'm going to go out and I've got a 5k walk that I do, and I thought that's what I'm going to do in the morning. I'm not going to do a strength workout. I'm going to do that, and I was actually quite excited about doing it as well, because I knew it would be a beautiful day, and I was out at 7 and I did it, and I was really, and I feel like I've moved, and and it was really good. So I think, this is a time of life where we need to start prioritizing ourselves. And again, I talk in my coaching work with women and in the group about the oxygen mask. It is about putting the oxygen mask on ourselves, just as we're told to when we're on a plane, and asking, what do I need now? And I think that's the thing. It's prioritizing our health, not just for now, not just to manage symptoms, but for our future health as well. This is the opportunity. But also because of the brain fog, because of the high, for a lot of us, we're managing increased anxiety as well, and our confidence can be dipping, and as you say, the cortisol levels are less well regulated because our hormones are all over the show. So we really do have to look after ourselves, and we need to ask ourselves, what do I need now, or what do I need today, or what do I need in this hour in order to help me get through? And that's not a question that as women we're used to asking ourselves. No. Really, we're used to looking after everyone else, making sure their needs are met, whether that's at work, at home, or both. And so this is the time to do that, and we might have to change some stuff and do things differently to accommodate the changes that we're experiencing, and that's okay. It's okay to have to do that, so long as we feel like we've got agency in those decisions. I think it helps us to feel less like we're being, something's happening to us, and more like, we've got control. And that's, take control where you can take control, do the stuff that you enjoy where you can do the stuff that you enjoy, and it will be a better experience. And understand this time of life, understand as much as you can about what your body is going through, because it's a massive shift, and yet it's played down, it's minimized, it's not often validated by the society, and so we minimize it. We gaslight ourselves sometimes, and actually we need to pay attention and then take action. And it will be a much better experience, and hopefully we will stop seeing women leave the workforce. Hopefully we'll
Yeah.
see women aging much better than we currently age,
Yeah.
because we've done all these things now in this moment. So yeah, it is a tricky time, but it doesn't have to be a car crash. It
Yeah,
doesn't have to be
I
disastrous.
think that you've hit the nail on the head there. Is it doesn't have to be a car crash if you can start to understand your body, because we don't, as a society, and it's not just women, we've lost that connection with our inner selves. We've lost that connection of listening to our bodies, and things like, I've got a smartwatch, but things like smartwatches and technology, like, we don't trust in how we feel. We kind of rely on things
That's
to
so
tell
true.
us.
Yeah.
And I think this is a time where you need to come into your own space and really think about, how do I feel physically? How do I feel mentally? What are my energies like? Look at your lifestyle. Am I eating in a way that's going to serve me well at this time? Because we know inflammation is much higher at this time, which contributes to some of the symptoms. Am I eating food that's aggravating the inflammation in my body, my gut? I've got, your digestive system slows down. And it's getting in tune with your body and almost stripping back everything else around you and thinking, how do you feed your children? Like when they're babies and we're like, you're not allowed to give them this, they've got to have this, it's got to be clean. And we suddenly kind of move into, as we get older, a quick lifestyle. And
Yes.
everybody does it. I do it.
Mm.
And we move into these patterns of maybe not serving our body in a way that's going to help to reduce inflammation, reduce those cortisol levels, those stress levels, like getting up and having a coffee first thing in the morning. We don't really need it. We've woken up. Our hormones are already surging to wake us. We have a coffee. We higher our cortisol level. We then make ourselves more anxious. We've then got a bit of brain fog. It's going up even more. And I think it really is getting in tune with, when is my high anxiety? What are my patterns here? What have I eaten? What have I been doing before? And just starting to really think about our body holistically, our mind, our body, our nutrition and our movement and our hydration. And our rest and recovery is really important as well, because we know we need more rest recovery, we need longer warm-ups, we need longer cool downs, we need to stretch more. And so it's looking at everything, and it sounds like a lot, and that sounds really overwhelming, and I didn't mean to do that, but look at small changes that you can make.
Yeah, it's the small changes, isn't it? I think that's
Yeah,
important.
just
Take
those
it one
little
step.
changes. Yeah, like,
Yeah.
I'm going to wait an hour in the morning to have my coffee.
Yeah.
Does that make my day feel a little bit easier in the morning? Am I less stressed when I get into work and I've got to go into that meeting? I've taken the kids to school, I've rushed to work, I've gone into a meeting, I've had 3 coffees, and I'm like this. If I hadn't have had that coffee and I'd waited till I got to work and I'd had it just before my meeting, am I more focused? It could be something really, really simple.
Really simple.
Like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like you're saying, you get up and you do a strength workout in the morning. It might be that a couple of days a week you get up and do some strength training. So it doesn't have to be really big things, does it?
No, and I swapped out my cup of tea for hot water and lemon in the morning, and things like that. So just finding what works for you and creating a bit of margin, a bit of space. I know that sounds like a luxury, but it's an essential really to looking after ourselves and paying, like you say, paying attention, understanding your body now, understanding your sort of mental well-being now, and what you've got energy for and what you haven't. And I think one of the key things I work on with women in coaching as well is acceptance. You've got to accept some stuff. Things are different. Things are changing. If we're constantly fighting that, and if then we're using a lot of energy constantly fighting something that we're never going to win. We're never going to get that. So actually, what do you need to accept? What do you need to change? And what do you need to, just sort of like move on from? Is really important. And don't just don't ignore yourself.
No.
Put some simple changes in place.
It's interesting, in other cultures they celebrate this time.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
in our society, generally we don't want to age. We want to keep things the same.
That's
And
right.
that's not just with aging. We don't like change. We like things to stay the same. Whereas in other cultures, they actually celebrate this time and they celebrate being able to slow down rather than it being oh, I've got to slow down. I can't do what I was doing and I want to keep at the same pace. They celebrate, like you say, taking that time, having a little bit of space. And it's just really interesting when you look into other cultures and the way they record their symptoms are different, and the symptoms that they highlight are different from the ones that maybe we do in our kind of culture. And I've just found that really interesting. I was just reading some papers on it
That's
the other week.
Yeah.
But like you said, I think it's not a time to fear. It's a time to accept and adjust. But it can be a great time, you know. I'm having to slow down. You know, I go at 100 miles an hour physically, and I'm having to, like you say, accept that actually I can't quite do as much as I could do. And it's been a little bit of an adjustment for me, but actually now I've accepted it. I'm really enjoying doing a bit more yoga, you know, and doing those slightly slower pace things for me, just to keep my body and my mind healthy.
Yeah, definitely. That's really good. And it is just, it doesn't mean we're any less capable. That's
No.
the thing. It doesn't mean we can't do what we have always done,
Yeah.
but we might just have to slow it down a bit, or, you know, do some, just rethink how we do some stuff.
Yeah.
Because of our energy levels, because of the brain fog, you know. So, and when brain fog strikes, and then we get anxious about the fact that we've got brain fog, that only accelerates the problem. So what do you need? What will support you to manage brain
Yeah.
fog so that you don't get into that anxious? So it's, you know, it's just those tips and tricks really, just to recognize and then, you know, kind of do something with that, and you know, not tell ourselves that we're doing you know, doing a bad job, that we're rubbish, that we're no longer capable. That is not the message at all.
No.
It's just that, yeah, stuff changes, and you know, we are phenomenal. We will continue to be phenomenal, but we have to embrace all that, you know, is going on as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Amazing. So if I'm going to put you on the spot now, but if you
Mm.
could give women, say, 4 or 5 sort of top tips to kind of put in place maybe to help them with this phase, what would they be?
The first would be get informed. So educate yourself about perimenopause and menopause, what's going on in your body, why it's happening. Because again, I think there's just a tendency to dismiss it. Oh, it's just, you know, it's just my hormones. But actually, when you understand how important they are to the smooth functioning of so many of the systems of our body, you start to feel more validated in what you're experiencing as well. And you go, oh, that's why it's not me, it's perimenopause.
Yeah.
So get informed, keep a track of things, look at, you know, as you say, get to know you, get to know what's going on for you in your body, you know, your sort of mental energy as well, what brings you joy, and what are the things that give you life, because, you know, there's going to be a lot of stuff that drains you when your energy levels, when you haven't got as much energy, you therefore haven't got as much capacity. So you need to think, what are the things that bring me joy? So make sure that you're doing things that just help your brain to switch off a bit, that help you to feel a bit more alive again, and re-energized, I suppose. Talk to people, talk to your families about it, help them to understand it, and so that it, you know, so that you don't feel too alone in it. Reach out and get support if you need to, because you're not alone. You're not the only one. You're not going mad. And also go and have a chat with your GP. Find a GP. Talk to them about it, and, you know, go informed as well, I would say, so that you can ask questions and not come out of there going, oh, I wish I'd thought, oh, HRT, they talked about HRT, what do they mean? You know, go in so that you, with a bit of knowledge, so that you can ask them questions as well. I think and don't ignore yourself. That would be the main thing, I think.
Yeah. Put yourself to the top of the pile
Yeah,
rather than allowing yourself to keep slipping back down. I'll do it next week.
yeah,
Next week.
yeah.
Put yourself to the top of the pile, because I think you used a great analogy earlier about putting on your mask before
The
anybody
oxygen
else's.
mask. Yeah,
Because we, you
yeah,
know, most women I know have got a lot on their we're spinning a lot of
We're
dishes,
spinning a lot. Yeah,
and
exactly.
you can't do that if you're not prioritizing your own health and well-being. So yeah,
No, that's
so
it.
that's great. Thank you so much. We are going to put a link for a symptom tracker on below
Yeah.
this video, so that's going to be there for you as well. And I think if we could maybe find a couple more resources we could put on that we could signpost people to, would be fab. But thank you so much for coming to talk to me today. I've loved the conversation. It's always great being able to open this conversation up for women, and so thank you very much for coming to talk to me today.
That's a pleasure, Jo. Thanks for having me.
Okay, thank you.